Hi, and welcome to Raising Grades, a platform for us to hear from parents who have raised successful and sometimes famous people in hopes to help those of us who are currently raising kids to see what it takes to have our kids be successful. So today we have Renee Browning, mom to Elijah Browning, an American Ninja warrior who has hit that buzzer not once, not twice, but isn't it 6 times, Renee?
Times, yes.
6 times. Well, that is so amazing. Let's start off with what sparked this journey.
Yeah. You know, from the time I have two sons. Elijah is now 19, Julian is 14, and I have a daughter who's 11. And the boys started watching American Ninja Warrior years and years and years ago. Elijah was probably about 5 or 6 when he started watching it. He would watch Sasuke in Japan, which is where it all started. And of course, they turned my whole house into obstacles, like constantly. They were climbing up door frames and using couch cushions and everything. They were jumping off of everything and just creating obstacle courses constantly. And so a little ninja program started at a place in Cool Springs in a gymnastics gym. And the ninja that was local to Franklin, Travis Rosen, who'd been on the show, happened to be a friend of ours. And so when Elijah was 8 years old, we set up a meeting between the two of them. And that just kind of exploded his love and interest in the sport. Travis was so awesome to him. And then Travis started a program at a local gymnastics gym. So both my boys started taking lessons. And from there, the sport of ninja outside of the TV show, but the sport was really growing and it started expanding for children. And so my boys started competing at the very beginning of the sport for kids. And so Elijah was about 9 when he did his first competition. Julian was 5 or 6, and they've been competing ever since.
They haven't stopped. So let's go back to where you said they turned your house into a ninja course. That's something that I feel like parents who have athletic children, it's just naturally going to happen in the house because their skill level, like we want them to keep practicing, and we have to, at least the way that I look at it with my house is that everything in here is just a thing.
That's right.
And if it's going to help their skill, like if they knock into something, okay, it's just a thing, but they're practicing their skill level. So I'm sure that you probably had things broken and
Oh yeah, we
right.
have pull-up bars in 2 doors of our house that have been there for 10 years plus. And the boys and girls, everybody who comes in my house is constantly on the pull-up bars. And my husband's like, "Well, we need to fix that drywall." I'm like, "Nope, nope, not while they're still young and in the house. We don't even have to worry about it. It's just going to be the door frames are going to be messed up and the drywall is going to be messed up, and it's all good." They just have lived on those pull-up bars and just running around the house. I didn't realize when I built my house that I built a racetrack. People have like open doors and open rooms, and they're constantly running and chasing each other. And I kind of thought at 19 and 14 that the boys would, maybe calm down a bit, but that really hasn't happened. They still wrestle and throw each other around and race and compete and do all the things 24/7, which is so fun. My dad has a farm in Colombia, and so that's been a huge blessing to us. So that's many years ago, he started building ninja obstacles for the boys out there. And so they were able to train there at my dad's farm, which has been great.
Wow, that is so awesome. Okay, so it's been just like this whole family
Oh,
input into the kids of what can we do to help you, and that you see that they have a passion for it. Your dad saw that he had a passion for it, and what a good grandpa to be like, you know what, I'm going to build this for you and let you do your thing out here too. That's really cool.
he's amazing. My dad's a builder by trade. So like he built a zip line when the kids were really tiny. And so they've always had like tree houses and zip lines. And he just started building obstacles onto those tree houses and totally supporting them. And, we started traveling from the time they were really young, like 9 and 5, to competitions around the country because we really didn't have anything locally, even in the states surrounding us. So we had to go to Atlanta, to Boston, to Colorado, to Florida for competitions, which has been such an amazing experience for our family because we all love to travel. And my kids are great travelers like yours are. We've traveled so much that they can pack in a hurry and hop on an airplane and navigate all that. So it's been really an amazing experience.
I love that so much. So, with your travel schedule, talk to me about that journey,
Yeah.
about how you made that decision to this is what we're doing as a family. We're going to commit to this and we're going to travel and we're going to really pursue this lifestyle.
Right. So, the decision to homeschool was made when Elijah started kindergarten. So that was way before Ninja Warrior travel started. But I was homeschooled and private Christian schooled growing up, and just felt like that my boys were just so active and so busy and wanted to be outside all the time. And I just felt like that to sit in a classroom for 7 hours a day would just not work for their personalities. And well, just Elijah at the time. So we made the decision to homeschool him. And then when Julian came along, it just made sense to homeschool him as well. And over the years, we had tutorials and all kinds of things that helped along that process. But it definitely left our world open to be able to travel, because you can do schoolwork on a plane or in a car or wherever you are. And then when my daughter, we adopted her from South Korea and brought her home at 15 months. And when she was getting ready to start kindergarten, I was traveling so much with the boys that I just wasn't sure how I could give her the basics that she needed. And so they opened a school right across the street from my house, and my husband works from home. And so it just worked for us to be able to send her there. And she still travels a ton with us, but she loves being in school every day. She's just a very different personality. But she doesn't miss out on any of the big family trips. We still take her, and the school's been great. But yeah, so there were a lot of decisions that led to homeschooling. I mean, one, I really wanted to control what they were being taught. I really wanted to be able to allow them to do a little math and then go outside and run around and do some reading and then do some painting. And they're both very creative and they're both very active, both the boys. And my daughter's very much a linear thinker. She's more driven by wanting to sit and read a book and do her schoolwork. And the boys were like, book. And so they're audiobook people. So it just worked. It worked so much better for our world and our lifestyle, and it's been the best decision. So I've now graduated one, which is a big, big thing. He graduated last year, and so that's been a gift. And he's just so well educated in the sense that now that he's out of high school, he is constantly listening to audiobooks and listening to podcasts and studying that way. And it's been really amazing to watch him just be able to focus on the things that he really wants to focus on in life.
Yes, I love that so much because I am also a homeschool mom and
Yes.
I really love being able to, like you said, get the kids outside and let them play and learn in that kind of way. And there will be multiple times where I'm like, you know what? We're going to take your math test while you are swinging on the swing right now. You can do it
Yes.
audio. Like I will give you the math problem and you just, verbalize it back to me. And so I really love that. And I think with, the skill sets that and the passions that your family has of like wanting to be outside, wanting to be physical, wanting to climb and
Yep.
jump off of things. And so you're right. The school setting is not conducive for that, but you had to look and see what was the best fit for each child, and you
Yeah.
made that decision. So with that, how much screen time did you allow for your kids to have? Your specifically like your older boys, with them wanting to be very active outside. Was that something that you really had to monitor and say, no, no screen time right now, get outside? Or were they just self motivated to go outside?
Well, certainly I never had to ask them to go outside. Like they've always wanted to be outside and run around and do all the things. And we've never owned a gaming system. Like we made a decision kind of early on. We've never had an Xbox or a PlayStation or anything. We just kind of made that decision. They had like iPads and things they could use for travel. But my older son didn't even get a phone till he was almost 15. So Elijah, we noticed that when he was younger, even on his iPad, if he would play video games, even video games that we totally approved, he's so highly competitive that it would really affect him for the whole day if he didn't do
Mm.
well in these games. And like I said, he wasn't spending much time, but what little time he did spend really had to be monitored because it affected him. My younger son, Julian, doesn't quite get affected the same way. And he's driven a lot by animating and by Legos. And so he has spent more time on devices just from the standpoint that he uses it for his animation and for learning about all of that. But they're just very different personalities. And I never really had to monitor Julian on games. He really doesn't play them at all. And Elijah doesn't either, just for fun. Like if he's just trying to just sit and relax, he might play a game for a few minutes. But it's just something I've never really had to monitor that closely, because early on we kind of made some decisions that helped that, because we could see that if we let Elijah get too deep into video games, that it was just going to be counterproductive for him.
Yeah, I agree with that because society is just pushing us more towards technology and devices. And I'm like, no, go outside and do something creative. Maybe, and I've had a lot of people, my kids love to climb
Oh,
trees and they can climb really high. And I've had people say, "Oh, like your son's a little high." And I'm like, "I know, I get it. He is very high right now, and if he falls, we will deal like with like a broken arm or whatever." But I don't want to say get out of that tree. I don't want like my fears to stop them from exploring God's natural creation and climbing that tree. And I remember that how I even met you all was we were at the park and your sister was there and I saw Julian fall from like a pretty high distance and he just kind of fell, but he knew how to fall and he rolled
okay.
in the fall. And I jumped up and I was like, oh, and your sister was like, no, 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 it's okay. They know how to fall. They know how to practice. Actually, their family's like in the ninja world. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So speak
Right.
to speak to that about like as a mom, at least I will always have to hold myself back from being too worried about the injuries. Did you ever deal with that too?
I think they have always been so active. And like I said, my dad has a farm. I'll never forget when Julian was 18 months old. I pulled up at my dad's farm one day and he was on the roof of the barn. So I kind of have always had to let go of that because they've always climbed on all the structure. So I didn't deal with that a lot because they've just always been so active. And I knew that I would just live my life completely stressed out if I was worried about them. But they definitely have taken their hard falls. They definitely have both had concussions that weren't ninja related, like just living life and being boys. They've had concussions and done all the things. And so I really have just learned to not let anything bother me. People ask me that, we're on the set of American Ninja Warrior and in Vegas, those obstacles, some of them are like 30 feet high and you're standing there and you're like, that's really tall. But, over the years, we've just learned that it's just what they love and what their passion is, and pray that God protects them. And they've so far, by the grace of God, not had any broken bones, if you can believe that. They've just learned how to fall, I guess, over the years, because they've certainly had their share of failure. Not like they've succeeded at everything they've done, and they've had to train really hard to get to where they are, and that requires a lot of falling. But they just get right back up and keep going.
That's something that we have to teach our kids of like, don't let failures knock you down. You do get back up. Were there any like specific prayers or quotes or anything like that that you would really just speak into them when they felt like they were failing or just couldn't grasp?
Yeah, I feel like that, especially on the seasons of American Ninja Warrior, God's been so good to kind of give us a verse each season. And I'll remember on Elijah's rookie season, it was the verse about having wings like an eagle and being able to fly. And so that was the verse that God gave us for that season, and we were just constantly using that and talking about that on set constantly, because there's a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and just they've worked so hard, and here you are on the big stage, and what if it doesn't go well? And Elijah had such an incredible rookie season and then came back the next year and didn't make it to Vegas. He fell early in semifinals and it was crushing. But God used that so powerfully too. Like we literally came off the set and he's soaking wet and he's in tears, and as a mom, it hurts your heart so badly because you're like, oh my goodness, how can his season be over after such an amazing season last year? But we both looked to each other through our tears and we were like, it's incredible the peace that God has given it. And, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him and he'll direct your path. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. That's on an actual sign in our house. Like, that's kind of been a life verse for me. And it's one that I taught the kids when they were really young. And that whole scenario in season 14 was certainly one where that verse came into play in our lives so powerfully. And God so used that. He so used that fall and getting back up and moving back into just training and doing everything with excellence. We talk about that a lot, just how bringing honor and glory to God is not just getting out there and just doing it, but being excellent. Whatever God has called us to, doing that with excellence. And so he just got back and kept training and then came back stronger than ever last season and had a better season than he ever had. We talk a lot about, hard work and just getting in there. And when God gives you a passion and gives you direction, we definitely walk through those doors. But definitely it requires just a lot of hard work and perseverance and trusting God when you fall and knowing that your calling is set and that you just continue walking in that, in the good and the bad.
Wow, so many great things that you just said. I know people are going to just soak up all of those words. So, when you speak about doing things with excellence and the calling that God has on your life, was there ever a time that he wanted to quit, but you knew that that thought was just temporary? Or versus, like, how do you decipher when your child may just need a break for a minute versus
Yeah,
like
that's good.
really wanting to take a step back?
That's really good. That takes a lot of discernment from the Lord, I feel like, and I definitely have failed in that at times, but obviously, as a parent, but I think that I've always known from the time Elijah was little that his passion for Ninja Warrior was going to be lifelong. And I have just always known that wherever God took him in that process, I wanted to be there to support him along that journey and to encourage him. And when they're young, I'm out there coaching them on the course, even though I don't know anything. I have not an athletic bent in my body, but I had been to enough competitions that I, could kind of coach them a little bit. But that obviously they surpassed all of that long ago. And then it kind of transitioned where Elijah would coach Julian. And now they just train together and train with all their friends when we travel, which has been incredible. But I think that to your point about how to encourage them, there's never been a point where Elijah's like, or Julian, either one has said, I want to quit Ninja. That has never entered the equation. There's definitely been discouraging times and seasons that were not as great on the competition circuit and on the show where, Elijah has definitely had to say, I'm going to take a break. Like, I have been training so hard every single day for so long, and now I need to step back. And so I've been very conscious of giving him the latitude and not being that stage mom who's like, no, you got to keep going. I really know that he understands himself as an athlete, and that, and I reiterate to my kids all the time, my identity is not wrapped up in how you do in Ninja. If you quit Ninja tomorrow, I'm going to be just great and I'm going to love you and I'm going to support you, whatever that next step is. And when they want to step back and take a little break from doing the intense training, they're always going to work out because that's just what they do. But sometimes there's like, okay, this month I'm going to just chill a little bit and just train for fun and run and, do some weightlifting and not do quite as much like intense ninja training. And I support that because I know that their mental health, they need that for their mental health. And, I know that for my life personally, I think that's been the key for me is not wrapping my worth up in how well they do. Because I want them to love it. I want them to have a passion for it. I want them to be excited about it. And the minute they don't, I'm okay if they stop. It really is not going to affect me at all. And God's brought these amazing relationships into our life as a result of Ninja. And I tell the boys all the time, I'm like, if you stop Ninja, I'm going to keep going to competitions because those are my friends. I truly see those kids as I call them my extras. And I will always go and support, even if my kids, when they decide they don't want to do Ninja, which they're not on that path, and that's great. But if that day comes, then I'll still go and hang out with my friends and support all the other kids that we've been with for so many years.
The community that you guys have built is just so inspiring. I love it. I love seeing it. And going back to what you said about your identity isn't attached, like solely attached to them doing well in Ninja. I love that so much because I feel like a lot of times even though parents may not start out that way, it becomes that way. And then the pressure on the child is so great and they buckle under that pressure.
Mm.
And I know for my sister, I have a younger sister who is 18 years old. And at 10, she got her black belt. And
Oh,
it was very, very a grueling process,
yeah.
definitely not easy.
Yeah.
And for years, she struggled with people only seeing her as a black belt. And I remember hearing my mom one time tell her, you are not just a black belt. You can have so many different interests. It's okay to really pursue other things too. You're not just one category.
Or
And so, with that, I had the pleasure and opportunity to be with both of your boys a couple nights ago at a youth group function. And I loved how I saw Elijah, your older son. He really was elevating Julian, his younger brother. And I just loved how he was kind of taking a step back and pushing Julian forward. Do you see that a lot? Was that something that's always been there, or was that something as like a family? You're like, Elijah, you've had this amazing platform, and now it's time to help Julian as well.
yeah, they definitely are typical brothers. There's definitely been, a lot of ups and downs in their relationship. Certainly, they've had issues with training together and with Elijah coaching Julian because he's like, don't tell me what to do. All the things that brothers go through. So we've been through all of that. We are not immune to that by any means. But it is so sweet how I'm seeing God weave their relationship as they both mature and get older. And I do see Elijah really wanting Julian to just grow in his giftings, and he is an incredible animator, and he loves ninja too. And I tell him all the time, buddy, if there comes a point when you want to stop doing ninja, because he does basketball and some other things, 100%. He runs track. We'll stop doing ninja. And he's like, no, mom, that's my number one. That's my number one sport. And so as long as he wants to continue doing that, Elijah wants to encourage him in that and wants to see him excel. And, they're very competitive against each other, typical brothers. And he would love to see Julian just continue to compete and beat him. He would love that. But I love that they are definitely entering into like a more mature relationship and talking more about spiritual things. I just see them both growing in their relationship with the Lord, which makes me so happy. And,
Mhm.
but like, I mean, we were just in Miami last week for a bunch of business stuff and ninja stuff, and they had an altercation, and it was like an hour-long discussion between the three of us of trying to work out some issues that they had, and it was tough. It was really tough, but they came out of it just loving each other and understanding each other more and better after they had some time to cool off and to express themselves and all the things. One thing I will recommend that was recommended to me years ago by an incredible therapist who works with boys, particularly, is it's really important to set up a space for your boys where they can get out that aggression when they're
Mm.
feeling frustrated. And so years ago, we bought a punching bag, and it's in our basement. And there are times when I'll just hear Julian down there just pounding it. And same with Elijah over the years, and I think that was recommended to me so many years ago to give them a private place where they could go. And even when they were little, it was just one of those little ones that you fill up with sand, and we just put it in the corner and they could pound away at it. Now they can go to the basement and be alone, and they'll come back and their knuckles are all like bleeding and stuff, but it helps so much for them to get out that aggression and things that they're feeling. It's like they can punch their feelings out on this punching bag and then come back and be more equipped to talk about it and to deal with whatever's going on.
Wow, that is some really great advice. Just understanding that boys, especially teenage boys, they need to have an outlet for that. So that's some really like gold advice right there. With your schedule that you were just talking about, with like Julian and multiple sports, and with, Elijah traveling to these competitions,
But
how do you manage it all? You
it's
must have like
crazy.
a cape on, the superhero cape.
It is wild, and I've just been walking a journey through breast cancer as well, and so that was a lot of my 2023. I had a mastectomy, I had, 6 months of chemo, and I've already had a surgery in 2024 and have another one coming up, and I actually got diagnosed right in the middle of our American Ninja Warrior season this past year in 2023. So we were in LA for 2 weeks, and we were in Vegas for, 10 days, and all in the middle of that, I was having tests, and we came home from Vegas and I told the kids because they didn't even know. I kept it a secret from them. Elijah had just trained and worked too hard, and I didn't want that in his head. And the kids were getting to go to filming, and I wanted them to enjoy it, Julian and Vivian. And so I did not tell them till the night we got home from filming, and then I had surgery 5 days later. But it's just been a journey where I've just determined that I wasn't going to let cancer slow me down. So our schedule is absolutely crazy because Elijah runs a bunch of businesses. Julian animates and does sports. Elijah's always done multiple sports too. And Vivi is also involved in all of her things with school, and she's about to start volleyball and all of her friends. And she loves to shop. She's my girly girl. She loves shopping and makeup and skincare and all the things. And so balancing all of that has been crazy because they can't all go to every competition and to every trip and on every excursion. So it's about balancing, and it's about being really creative with financing. My girlfriends tease me all the time. They're like, you can find $40 flights out of Nashville. Like, how do you do that? And so I'm just constantly searching for those ways that we can travel more economically because we don't have a ton of money for all that, but God has just provided, and we have lots of friends in lots of parts of the country, and they always open their home to us, and I always open my home to all of our ninja friends whenever they're in town, because we've been so blessed, and I want to extend that to others. And so it can be tricky at times, but overall, Natasha, the blessings have been so incredible. I cannot tell you the conversations that I've had, and you know this because you travel a lot with your kids. The depth of conversation that happens when you're at an airport or on an airplane or in a car driving, it's a depth of conversation that doesn't happen when you've got all the stressors of being at home and all the busyness of laundry and cleaning and dishes. And it has been so enriching for our lives just to have these conversations and to be able to go deep and to discuss things that I feel like we might not have unpacked
Mm.
at home. So I think it's important to carve those times out where you can get out of just the craziness of I need to make my bed this morning. I had to take my mom to an appointment this morning, all of that. But when you're traveling, it's that concentrated one-on-one time, and it's just been such a gift for us. So any sacrifices that I've had to make have all been worth it, and I've loved every second of it.
I 100% know what you're talking about. And something was said to me a long time ago that I've just held in to my heart. And I'm like, I love that. And I want that for our family. It says, when your worldview is bigger, your problems are smaller.
Wow.
And it's powerful, right? And I can't take
Amen.
claim to that. My brother-in-law actually said that to me. Traveling with your family and that one-on-one time, you're right. You're not distracted by all the things that call us at the house, right? A lot of times moms carry that guilt of no matter what we're doing, something else is not getting done and falling behind. And
Right.
when you remove yourself from the stressors of life, even if it's just for like a weekend, or my goodness, I just went on a walk with my son last night, like a 2 mile walk, and it was just he and I, and that's
Yes,
all we had to do was just walk and talk. And I just loved it so much because that connection, right? It's not necessarily about being perfect. It's being about being present.
that's right.
And I feel like you do that so well.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm blessed, and I love being with my kids. I have fun with them. We have a great time, all of us. And I do, try to be deliberate with Vivian too, because she doesn't do ninja. She has in the past. It's definitely not something she's really interested in pursuing at the moment, which is great. So like next week, I'm going to take her to New York with a girlfriend for a couple of days, and so I try to be really deliberate to do things And then she goes with us. Like we were all in Colorado skiing and snowboarding with some friends the end of January. And I took her out of school for that because that was not a trip I was willing for her to miss. So, we
Mm.
definitely make those decisions about things and trips and time we spend. And it's about being deliberate, right, Natasha? I mean, it's hard. Life is busy. I have my mother lives with us, and then my father's been injured, and so he's been splitting time between my house and my sister's, and it's been so wonderful to have them in our home, and it's been a wonderful thing. But that's another component, right? Of when as your parents age, then my children are still young, and then my parents are aging, and so there's appointments that they need to get to, and so it's just a balancing act all the way around. But we're blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have just an army around you, and sometimes your expectations rise, and then
That's right.
sometimes other people's expectations rise on what they have to do for the family. And from what I'm hearing and what I've seen, is just that you have built such a strong family, and I absolutely love that, because that's also part of kind of the ninja mentality, is that we take care of one another.
Yes, it is. Our
Mhm.
ninja community is so incredible. I tell people all the time, because most people only have access to what they see on the show. They don't have local competitions that they have seen. And I tell people all the time, what you see on the show, that camaraderie and that love and that support and that encouragement is truly what we are all about. It's a little bit difficult for me sometimes when I'm at a rec basketball game or one of those things, and I hear parents and grandparents getting really upset and uptight about calls that are made and that sort of thing. Because that's not our ninja experience. That's not our ninja life. Of course, bad calls happen, things happen, obstacles break, whatever. Um, but as a general rule, like I many times have watched my son and his friends coach each other on obstacles to beat them. Like, so Elijah might say to his friend, "Hey, I've already been on this obstacle. This is the better way to do it." And then the friend beats him and he's cheering him on the whole time. So that really is the nature of the community. And I'm just so blessed by these families, so many like-minded families. And we all just want what's best for our kids. And we all just want to have a great time. And we all, just have been so grateful for the travel and the experiences that God has given us as a result of Ninja. But it really is just such an incredibly supportive, encouraging sport, and I just feel so blessed that we can be a part of it.
Having so much support and encouragement, uh, with your boys being those teenage years, there's so many bad influences out there. Have you ever seen a time where some bad influences were trying to infiltrate your family and you had to put a stop to it?
I feel like we have been so blessed in that realm. I also have always tried to make our home kind of a hub. And so I always cook a lot of food, try to have a lot of fun things for them to do. And so, like, a lot of Elijah's friends came over during every Monday night football game, and I'd make a ton of food for them, and they would just hang out. And um, I've always kind of wanted my home to be the hub of that wheel and for everyone to feel comfortable and safe to come in and chill and be themselves. Like I don't try to edit who they are as people. And I'm so grateful just that my boys have just chosen such incredible, incredible friends. I cannot say that there's a time where I feel like that there have been destructive friends in our life. And I'm so grateful, but
Mm.
I feel like that keeping your kids involved in things is so important. Staying involved and constantly dialoguing about their friends and about what's going on in their life. And their friends will come in and talk to me about their girlfriends and that kind of thing, which I love. I want to always be open and always feel like that kids can come in this home and feel like they can be free with us and be open about stuff that's going on in their lives. And then the parents can know that we're going to love them and that we're going to just point them to Jesus and encourage them.
What you said about just keeping them busy and active in things, I've seen that throughout the many different states that I've lived in. I found something in common with kids that typically get into some things that maybe they shouldn't be into, it was because they had too much downtime and they
Mm,
were bored. And that's where things kind of crept in. So I agree with that. With all of the kids coming to your house
yep.
and with the boys, it was probably a lot of teenage boys at your house. How was the testosterone level there? Because I remember one time when my son was like 5, he had a couple boys over, and the next thing I know, I'm looking over and they're all trying to lift my furniture and
Oh, wow.
see who's strongest. And I'm like, put my furniture down, guys. You're 5 years old. I don't want anybody getting hurt.
It's all a competition, that is for sure at all times. But I just this week, Elijah had like 9 friends over here, and um putting up a basketball goal in our driveway was probably one of the best things we ever did. They went out and they played basketball, and then they went in the front yard and played football. And so they got a lot of that out and just had a great time. And they're like 19, 20, 21 years old, 18, 17. And they just they still love just running around and playing, playing sports. And so definitely when all those boys come in after playing, you're like, "Whoo, where's my diffuser? Maybe I need wouldn't die with it all. They're all amazing, and it was so fun. And I just made sure they had plenty of food to fuel themselves. And this age, have to worry as much about them picking up my furniture, but definitely they get loud, and I love it. I'm used to it. Boys are loud, and having boys all these years, I'm used to the noise level. So I love it. It's music to my ears.
Yeah, definitely a blessing. And you can see the blessing in the chaos, and I love that. So, okay, let's talk about his regimen and his training. Did he ever use that as an excuse to get out of chores or to get out of schoolwork? Or he's like, Mom, sorry, I've got to train. I can't do these dishes right now. Or were you like, nope, family responsibility comes first?
Right. It's one of those things where I never felt like he's used it as an excuse. Now, he did not love school, like just having to learn things that he was not interested in learning. I mean, he at 14 years old started a trading card business, and so he was literally sitting at his tutorial buying trading cards. Like, I mean, just on his phone on eBay, like when he was 15 years old, he's buying trading cards while he's sitting in biology. So definitely, the school setting, he would do everything he could to get out of that. But as far as the self-discipline of like cleaning and that sort of thing, like for years, he's always gotten up and made his bed and, done his own laundry and that sort of thing. So I've never had to really worry about that. Now, Julian is more creative. And so
Mhm.
sometimes there's a little more directing that has to happen there where it's like, no, now it's time to go get your laundry and put it away. That sort of thing. But that often is because he's off creating and kind of in his world there. And so sometimes I'm like, okay, you go create, but then as soon as you get done creating, this needs to happen. The dishes need to be put away and your clothes needs to be folded and that sort of thing. So I've learned that Julian needs a little bit of time. So if I say to him, hey buddy, within the next like 30 minutes, can you accomplish this? That works a lot better for him, so that I can kind of give him parameters there. Where Elijah, I can be like, hey, run outside and take that trash to the street and da da da. Just very on it at the moment, and can pivot a little bit faster. So that's something as a mom I've had to learn. But again, homeschooling does help that because they haven't had homework. They, have more time in their day to kind of plan better.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why we love homeschooling so much too, because raising athletic children in the school system world, they're not getting home until 4:15, 4:30 sometimes, and then they have homework, then they have to get to practice. Homeschooling really allows that time and space for them to practice more, really fine tune the things that they need to fine tune without so much stress on like timing and homework and trying to get to this and to that.
They have to eat at certain times of the day. Like they have to, if they're going to be training, like they have to eat a certain amount prior to and all the things. So yeah, it all factors in for sure. And homeschooling obviously makes that easier.
Yeah. So, okay, eating, raising 2 ninja boys, I'm sure it is not cheap to feed these kids. Was there some kind of like program that you kind of went by, or how did you manage to be able to feed them the protein that they needed because they are training so much?
Costco, Aldi, and Trader Joe's. Those are probably my 3 go-tos. I mean, I'm always on a budget at the grocery store, I'm always, trying to make sure that, there's certain things that we eat regularly, obviously, and, definitely as Elijah gets older, he has edited, what he eats and how he eats it. They neither one drink soft drinks. They haven't for 4 or 5 years at all. They're completely no soda. Elijah's a coffee addict like me, and he laughs because he's been drinking coffee since he was 8. And he said, people used to tell him it's going to stunt your growth. And he's like, well, if it did, praise God, because I'm already 6'2", and I didn't want to be any taller for Ninja.
That's hilarious. Well, so now we know where he got his energy.
So yeah, I just think that, and my mom, obviously being with us, I mean, she makes some amazing Korean food, which is high in protein and very clean. And so, we've definitely benefited. We're a very big rice family, being I'm half Korean. And so there's always a rice cooker with rice in it. And you can always throw a protein with a rice pretty easily and economically. And so we've done a lot of that over the years. And yeah, so that's kind of how we get by. And then we don't do like Gatorade. We don't do drinks like that. We have a good friend that has an incredible, very clean hydration drink. We definitely focus on that and try to do more clean drinks as opposed to a lot of the drinks that have just a lot of junk in them. And the kids love it. It tastes good. They have like a different flavors that are good, and it's all clean. So it's wonderful.
I love that. With health and wellness, how important is stretching for your family?
So do you know what's crazy? I feel like that the longer they do athletics, the more they need recovery. Elijah has a whole like Normatec compression system, and they, use the hypervolts and everything. But I do think that track and cross country was crucial for them starting out in middle school to really learn how to stretch and the importance of stretching. And then as you continue to run and the older you get, the more you need to stretch. And a lot of trainers will say you need to recover for as long as you train. And that's staggering to think about because that's a lot of time. But both boys really see the benefit in ice baths and cryotherapy. They do a lot of Epsom salt tub soaking. They do that, and ice baths and compression and stretching is big. Elijah, like, he's to a place now where he's like, his warm-up routine is very, very set. Like at whatever competition he's at, he's got a very specific warm-up routine that gets in ready both with music he listens to and just what stretches and warm-ups he does. It's very specific. He's come up with a plan that works for him. So it is very, very, very important. It's interesting. We were just in Colorado in January, and the Ninja gym we were at that our dear friends Ninja Intensity in Castle Rock, they've set up a recovery room. So they have like a huge red light and an ice bath and all these kinds of things. And both my boys had hurt their knees training, and then they were snowboarding, and so their muscles were just crazy. They both got in the ice bath multiple times while they were there, and they said it was remarkable. So I think running is a really great place for them to really learn what stretching looks like and how to warm up.
I think that's really great because I would not have put those two hand in hand. I would have put like gymnastics and tumbling. So were they involved in that as well?
They were not. So my boys do not have a gymnastics background at all. It was a bit of a disadvantage at the beginning because most of their young ninja friends had a gymnastics or a rock climbing background, and my boys did not. Now, they have done a lot of climbing as a part of their ninja training. Bouldering and rock climbing, I think, is so good for kids young. I talked to a therapist one time who told me that rock climbing opens up a part of kids' brains if they start young because it teaches them a spatial awareness that they don't normally learn. And so it kind of opens up that part of your brain if you start rock climbing young. You're so close to that wall, and you have to problem solve while you're there, and your brain has to think about where your foot and your hand's going to go, and you're very close to the wall. And so it totally makes sense. But yeah, I think rock climbing is wonderful.
Yeah, and as a homeschool mom, you can count that as part of your gym class credits.
That's
So
right.
Okay, so Renee, my last question to you is, did you ever track other career paths for Elijah? I know you said he's in multiple businesses. I actually just heard on Tuesday from him about another really exciting opportunity that he has available to him now. Do you want to talk about that, or is that still kind of kept quiet right now?
No, no, it's totally great. Yeah, so I have always tried to pursue things for my kids that they're interested in. So all three of my kids have a modeling contract here in town, and they've all done modeling for a number of years. And then Elijah is just signed with a agency based out of Miami that does a lot of European jobs, and so he's really excited about that opportunity. But yeah, Elijah is a serial entrepreneur. He has, like I said, he started a trading card business when he was 14, and he's an avid collector. And so he has always been an entrepreneur and always wanted to pursue different business ventures. And I've just worked to support and encourage all of that. And then Julian also has pursued many different things, and one of his big passions is animation. And so he is actually beginning to teach some Lego animation classes. And so he has a YouTube channel where he does his animation. It's really been amazing to watch. And then Vivian loves to bake and that sort of thing. And so we've talked about possibly, what that looks like for her in the future. And but yes, with all my kids, they all have some interests that overlap, but then some that are varied. And so I really just try to encourage all three of them in all of their pursuits. Vivi had a tape she needed to film last night for a potential modeling job. And so we were filming that at 9 o'clock last night, and in between studying for tests today. And so, we just always try to stop and make room for those pursuits that can benefit them as they continue to grow older and in what they want to pursue in life. So it's a lot about being open to what God has, and just to pursuing a lot of things that are in their giftings.
You've had a lot of opportunities, and I'm sure that there have been some opportunities that you've had to say no to because it didn't align with either family morals or the image that you guys have built for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely have had to say no to certain jobs and steer away from certain things just because, as a family and as Christ followers and as, American Ninja Warrior, we love how wholesome the show is and that every age can watch it. And definitely Elijah has a certain standard that he wants to live by. And so we certainly have had to say no to certain things, but we've been so grateful because the people that have surrounded us, even that have some of them who those opportunities have been presented by them, they totally understand when we walk away and when we have to say, you know what, that's just really not for us, or when he's had to say this is not for me. And but we've just been blessed and just continued to build on those relationships and never made it an issue of, we think you're wrong. We just personally, this just isn't right for us. It just doesn't work for where we're headed. And we've always just had an open dialogue about that. And we've been so grateful for the response we've gotten in that realm.
That really goes to show the family dynamic that you have built and what you've instilled into your family, that they're comfortable in saying, that's not who I am, and I am going to say no to that opportunity. Renee, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. You are going to be such an encouragement to so many people. I already know that the messages I'm going to get are going to be so many people saying, this has helped me, and I cannot wait to see what God does for your family, and continued prayers for your health and for your family. I wait to see both of your boys on American Ninja Warrior. So
Yes.
tell us where people can follow them, because we would love to shout their pages out too.
Thank you. Yeah, so they are Elijah the Boss Ninja on Instagram and YouTube, and the Caveman Ninja on Instagram. And then on YouTube, Julian's stop motion channel is Frame by Frame Studios. And I understand in that world that there's not always a lot of clean content for kids to follow, but his is completely both of them have completely clean content that you don't have to worry about your kids following, because that's important to them. So yeah, follow them on socials. And I love watching your journey with your kids. You're such a great mom, and I love watching all
Oh.
of your fun travels, and that always speaks to my heart.
Oh, thank you so much for your words and encouragement. And I so appreciate your time. Thank you.
Oh,
And we'll talk soon.
thank you, Natasha. Bye bye.